Thanks so much for joining me here today. Today we have Professor Dennis Pilon with us, who is going to be talking about preparing for a PhD defense. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Dennis is the chair of the Department of Politics, and from what I recall, you have quite a history of supervising PhD students in your department.
I've supervised a crew, definitely. I've had five PhDs graduate. I've got a number getting ready to graduate just now. I think I'm presently supervising about 10 different PhDs. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on.
Excellent. So let's just dive right into it. The first question, when do you feel that a PhD student is ready to defend their thesis? Like as a supervisor, what do you look for?
The thing I've found about supervising is that students are so different. They need different things. They respond to different prompts in different ways. So some students will deliver a piece of work, and you're like, wow, this looks fantastic. It goes to the committee. Everybody's like, this looks great. So, and others, it's more of a building process. It's more reiterative. You give they give you some stuff, you give them some feedback, they come back. I haven't found in working with students that there's any one moment where you can predict. It really depends on how the student works and what kind of relationship they have with the committee. Some students are relying on their committee more for backup or commentary or conversation, and other students are much more like, I'm doing my own thing.
Excellent. So what should a PhD student expect once they submit their thesis and arrange a defense date? What does the process look like from there?
At that point, I mean, that's sort of the coasting moment. Up to that point is usually when you get to that moment where the committee, has looked over, maybe they've given some feedback, maybe it's the second time around, they're looking at it, and now it's like, okay, where is this at? Is it like a few changes away from going to a defense, or is it going to need more work? And that does happen, right? Some processes involve more revision than others. But once the committee signs off and says that they think that it's ready for a defense, which doesn't mean necessarily the committee agrees with everything that a student says. I mean, there's room in here for academic disagreement. But they feel that the work is coherent and ready, to be defended, and I think they're pretty confident that it will pass, right? I don't think anybody wants to see something go forward that isn't going to pass. So at that point, it's just a matter of preparing. And how should a student prepare for a defense? Obviously, you're going to reread your dissertation. But as I say to students, don't think you're going to memorize everything. One thing I've seen in every defense is that the student has a printed off copy of their dissertation. But I've never seen anyone look at it in the context of doing the defense. And here's the secret, the thing that I think a lot of students don't realize. They actually know their topic much better than they think they do. And a lot of what they know is triggered. It's much easier to answer questions about your expertise than to give an instant lecture, on a broad topic. Because if someone asks you a question, you go, oh, yeah, that reminds me of this and that. Oh, right, this prompts me to that part. So students will be surprised that in the context of the defense, they actually are able to call up a host of details and nuances that they didn't think they would be able to do. So yeah, in terms of preparing in that period between when the defense date is set, coming up to the defense, yeah, I think a student's going to reread their dissertation. They're going to try to think of maybe some of the questions that they might get. They could always consult their committee to spitball, some questions. And I know some students even like to do a practice run where they do a kind of mock-up of the defense where people hit them with questions. Often maybe, they're pals in the program. They get them, and people who've already defended. That is really good. Another thing that I really advise all PhDs to do is make sure that you go to a PhD dissertation defense before you're defending your own. Because there's nothing like knowing what's coming And the way to know what's coming is to actually go, to a defense. It takes a lot of the scariness out, I think. I mean, obviously, results may vary depending on what kind of defense you're at. But again, in my experience of attending defenses and being part of defenses, it's all very a nice process. It's mostly about honoring all the work that the student has done while hitting them with some hard-hitting questions.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure this will give all of our students who are about to defend or think about it something to think about as they move forward. Thank you so much, Dennis.
Thank you.